everybody. Welcome to the Rigonwheels show featuring MVT. This is your first ever truck driver recruitment show, and I am your host, Kameel Gaines, CEO and founder over here at Rigonwheels. And we have our wonderful VP of recruiting, Pierson, Robert Pierson at MVT. Is in a wonderful country. He's going to tell us about that in a few minutes. But we basically go over everything. We are your ultimate when it comes to your trucking industry news, hot jobs, topics, tips, all of that. But we also have another guest, D Anthony, and he actually is about to start with MVT and won something. So we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But D Anthony Davis, that's right here with us. But kind of introduce yourself a little bit, Robert or Pierson.
Yeah.
That better?
I know last week you asked a question about where I'd be. Did we get an answer to that?
Yes, D'Anthony actually answered it.
Nice.
Exactly.
Nice. All right. Yeah. So I'm approximately 5,500 miles from where you are at this moment. I'm in Vilnius, Lithuania, capital here in Lithuania with about 700,000 people. Very friendly people. We have some team members that work out of this office here that I'm presently at. So as we do this, it's about 11 o'clock at night here at this moment, but I'm excited to be on with you. Have a strong Wi-Fi signal, so hopefully we get through this without any type of interruptions or weird stuff going on. But I'm in the Baltic area. It's a beautiful part of the country, unbelievably friendly people. But definitely I'm a little bit homesick, so it's good to hear from you down there in Houston.
Yeah, I mean, like your background is cool, though. I like all of that. That's cute. I like that. So
Yeah, if this had been during their business hours, there'd be a bunch of people passing me by and most likely photo bombing me. So timing-wise, it probably works.
So they probably think you kind of weird, like it's 11 p.m., you in the office with your uniform on.
Yeah, the janitor's giving me some looks.
Okay, but we got D'Anthony Davis. So D'Anthony, okay, so you're a driver. First, tell us, how much experience do you have? Let's start there.
It's been 3.5 years experience being a CDL holder.
Okay, talk up a little bit. You from Cleveland, Texas. You're a country boy.
I'm from Cleveland,
Stop
Texas.
playing with us out here in these streets. So you got 3.5 years
Yes,
experience.
Yes, ma'am. I started out with Stevens Transport about 3.5 years ago, hauling refrigerated loads with reefers. Mm-hmm. And I left them and went to a local company here in Houston, Texas, where I stayed with them like 2.5 years hauling an end dump. And yeah.
And then you saw the podcast last week and gave us a call. And I know you talked to Nimmer. Right. So you talked to Nimmer and started the process from there, basically, right?
Yes, ma'am. I got a text message from a friend who referred me to this, which I had already knew about Rigonwheels, but I didn't know about MVT and what they had going on until I had watched this on YouTube, I want to say, yeah.
Okay. So tell me, this is some good information here we want to know, right? So, like, I know you got the text message from your friend in regards to the podcast. And then did you watch the podcast live or did you watch like a replay?
I started out watching it live and then somebody called me and I got distracted, but I ended up watching the replay. I wanted to watch the whole thing, from beginning to end.
Okay, and so that's kind of how you was able to answer the question.
Well, no, not really. I had caught it off from the first time I watched it.
Okay. Yeah. All right, so I guess I should just jump in and say this. So I kind of eased it in there. It wasn't like this big thing, but I wanted to do a giveaway, $100 gift card for a grocery store for a driver that knew the location of where Pierson, which we know is our VP of recruitment at MVT, where he was going to be this particular Tuesday for this podcast. And D'Anthony actually was the driver that first texted me about it. Text the 3100 number, 281-968-3100, and text me saying it with everything correct And then actually filled out the application and started going through the entire process. Okay, cool. So we're gonna get into that, but thanks for all of that. That's good. You gave us some good feedback.
Great, good.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
So
I'll say we're excited to have D Anthony aboard. I know he's joining us out of, I think it's Division 440, which is a good spot for us out of Houston there on that end. We have some nice freight opportunities and some newer customers coming on board with us. And so it's good to see that growth out of Houston, which traditionally was a smaller market for us, but we now have about, I want to say 70, 80 people based out of the greater Houston area. So it's been a nice area that we've grown in, and the freight seems to be popping up in that market for us. So we're excited to have D Anthony join the team and be a coworker with us next week.
Yeah, good to be here, man. Good to be here, Rob.
All right.
Let's make some money together.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So I want to kind of jump into some industry news. So I know I had said that I wasn't going to talk about yellow again, but I lied. You know, it is what it is. So I want to kind of jump into it because I know a lot of yellow drivers are starting now to get into the different companies and all of that. We have drivers that may not have that much experience with yellow. They might have a lot of experience, but not a lot of experience necessarily with yellow. And then we have the ones that have quite a bit of experience. We're having more luck placing drivers that have less experience. So with them, okay, so less than 5 years experience are seeming to have a little bit better. What are you seeing at MVT? What are the drivers that tend to be a little bit more successful that might come over to you from yellow?
Yeah, generally speaking, that time frame seems about right with what we're seeing, not just with us, but talking to some of my industry peers that work at other companies. We have some people that unfortunately are a little detached from reality, which is causing some confusion in the marketplace. I'll give you an example. We had a prospective individual that we talked to that was making $2,000 a week on a home daily opportunity out of Jacksonville. When you have a carrier that traditionally was known as a low-cost carrier, and you have a driver making twice what the normal driver in that specific market makes for the same type of job, A, companies will go out of business, and B, the hard part for a driver like that is they've become accustomed to a lifestyle that's just not supported. The supply and demand is not there. Unless somebody is willing to pay twice as much for a loaf of bread, or the $160 Air Jordans now becoming $300 to pay for it. We've had a little bit of that where some drivers are available and they're talking to carriers, but their understanding of what the current market plays or pays has been warped. And so there's some folks that unfortunately are having a tough time right now. We wish them the best in that scenario. We want to have very honest and direct conversations with them, just as I would want if I were in their shoes. There's a lot of things that influence pay. Freight levels. Do you live in a consumer market versus a market that has a lot of freight going outbound that pays pretty good? Do you have experience? Do you have any endorsements? There's a lot of things that go into that, down to where you live. In my role as a VP of recruiting, if I lived in the middle of Manhattan and New York City, I probably would make a different amount than what I make living in El Paso. And so there's a lot of people right now that's not been on the job market for a long time that are having to come to terms with the fact that they are not in the market that they thought they were. My best piece of advice to all those folks is to ask around a lot of questions, talk to a lot of truck drivers, do your homework and reacclimate yourself to the industry that you're in, because any carrier has to make profit, and when they don't make profit, you end up seeing what happened with yellow.
Yeah, that's absolute. That is definitely absolute. And that is what we're seeing on this side when it comes to the yellow drivers or drivers at like companies. They're not used to what the average pay is out here, $60,000 or less for a driver. And unless, like we spoke, they're specialized, quite a bit of experience, very clean drivers. So when you're talking about $2,000 a week for a local driver out of Florida, So that definitely is $100,000 driver. That just, the math not mathing is what the streets.
Look, I will always point out, and I've gone into truck stops, and if you hang around at a truck stop long enough, you get into a bit of a measuring contest. People brag about their cents per mile, or they brag about how many miles they're running, or you'll still hear people go, I run with 3 logbooks, and you go, wait, I thought everybody was on e-logs. So you still get those stories. The key caveat to this here is A, don't believe everything you hear. And then the B part of that is there are some ways to make really good money in this industry, but you got to understand what the sacrifice is and how those people do that. I could point to owner operators that make $380,000 a year doing household moves. The thing I would point out, though, in those people that I know that do that, they are on the road 9 months at a time. They don't go home.
Right.
And think about how unenjoyable it is to move your own furniture, let alone moving furniture for somebody else's house. So that's the thing is whenever somebody says something that you go, wow, that is a lot of money, there's some follow-up questions you should ask to that. I'm not saying they're not making that, but you got to be real careful and go, what did you do to get to that point? What sacrifices do you make? So if you have a wife and kids that may not want you to be gone for 9 months at a time, as an example, that job may not fit into your lifestyle. If you decide, I hate moving furniture, I really don't want to lift somebody else's couch and be liable if the couch is broken, that job might not be for you. And so it's that thing about having an honest discussion with yourself before you even pick up the phone and talk to a recruiter. Ask, what am I willing to give up to make this? What am I willing to give up to do this? Now, I'm fortunate with Mesilla Valley Transportation. We don't require any endorsements. We don't touch freight. I don't want a driver to be a lumper. Their value proposition is they are the subject matter expert on moving freight down the road. So I'm not trying to convince somebody to unload a trailer by hand. With that said, just be honest with those conversations. So like you would with any company, if there's a $12,000 sign-on bonus someplace, you should be asking, why do they have a $12,000 sign-on bonus? You'll see that with certain dedicated accounts. There's a reason why there's that sign-on bonus. And I'm not saying not to do it. What I'm saying is there's more questions that need to come after that.
If y'all don't notice, Pierson doesn't like sign-on bonuses. Just in case anybody was wondering.
If it's your money and you deserve the money, I want to pay it and not play a game with your paycheck.
There we go. That's going to lead us into our first commercial right there.
My name is Stacy Morton, and my position is OTR driver, and I've been with the company for 8 months. I enjoy being with part of the family because good miles, nice people, they listen to the drivers. The pay is excellent here at MVT. The home time is very good. You get to go home anytime you want. The dispatchers are really nice. They listen to the drivers, whatever you want. They will do their best to give you what you need. And the equipment is good, and safety is excellent. Yeah, they're fast, and the roadside is good. They listen to you, and they get the job fixed in a timely manner. Yeah, I would recommend other drivers to come to MVT because this is a good place to work, and you get excellent home time and everything that you need here.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. Look, thanks for coming back. We had to have an extended break because I had to get me some water. I wanted to kind of dive right into a hot job. Josue, better known as Joshua, which is your internal recruiter, actually wanted to talk about Division 220. So our El Paso, the Portland, or the Portland job. So can we, dive into that one? So I know the hiring area is Salt Lake City, Phoenix, and Portland.
Yeah. It is a job. And just like in the last segment where we talked about sacrifices, the hard part about the job is you're out about 7 to 8 days at a time, and you're really doing mountain driving in the Mountain West. So it requires a high attention to detail and being able to deal with differing weather conditions. And when the weather changes, it changes quickly. But that's also the job that you'll generally see somebody get into the six-figure range. So the trade-off is, yes, it is a bit of a more challenging job, but on the flip side of it, you have a strong pay rate going up to 60 cents a mile. You'll see pay that will get you in that six-figure range, anywhere between $90,000 to $106,000 a year. It is one that we have very low turnover on. The drivers that are on it like it. There's some unique challenges that come with that mountain driving. It's one of the few divisions that you might potentially see us go through the Eisenhower Tunnel. That will normally go over I-80 to get west to Denver. But yeah, Salt Lake City, Portland, Phoenix, three markets that tend to have a bit of a higher cost of living. So it's also a job for a driver to provide them with the opportunity to make the amount of money they'll need to live in those higher market cost of living markets.
Perfect. Now, I wanted to talk about what are some of the safety features that MVT has for a driver that has to go through the mountains and those type of sacrifices?
Yeah, first it comes down not so much of a feature of equipment, but communication. Our dispatchers and the fleet managers that are specifically on that, all the way to the director, what we call a DOM, which is a director over a specific set of divisions, have experience dealing with 220 for extended periods of time. So they understand some of the challenges that come with driving in the mountains. B, we have customers that also understand those things. So if we communicate with the customers effectively, God forbid there's a snowstorm, a blizzard, the customer knows the whereabouts of their freight. You're not being hounded every 2 hours, because we keep everybody in the loop, from the driver, the fleet manager, to the customer. We get into the Smith system, which is a great defensive driving course in preparing for what the four-wheelers are going to do on the road. We have the latest technology on the truck to make sure you're safe, so you have reliable equipment in terms of brakes. And I'll be honest, the cameras on the truck make a big world of difference. As you know, one of the things you have to worry about anytime you deal with wildlife in the road, which will happen in the mountains, but it also happens in other parts of the country, is if a deer's on the road, do not swerve for the deer. Run through Bambi. You much rather hit the deer than swerve into a ditch. That camera can be extremely helpful in developing some of the training materials that we've had in those type of issues. So it's a multi-pronged process to make sure that you're safe on the road. And fortunately for us, our fleet statistics is, in terms of safer, would say that we're winning that fight.
Pierson, I cannot take you seriously, but yeah, I like that story.
Yeah, let me point this out. I do not want Mesilla Valley's slogan to be "Run through Bambi." Just let me be very clear on that fact.
Oh, okay, good. Thank goodness. But because I like Nashville so much, I think we should talk about Nashville, and Josue would probably kill me if we didn't, for his text message. So let's talk about Nashville. I know we're hiring 100 miles out of Nashville. I think you should talk about it so I don't have to put on my readers and look.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about a couple opportunities out of Nashville. We have what we call Division 400, and we have what we call Division 10. We'll start with 400. Division 400 is going to have you go from Nashville going to what we consider our version of the Northeast. We are not going to New York City. We are not going to New England. We don't run through the boroughs. If you see a lot of our trucks going across the GW, the George Washington Bridge, something has gone horribly wrong. Our version of the Northeast is central Pennsylvania, maybe upstate New York, like Ithaca, Binghamton, maybe Albany, but that's kind of a bit of a stretch. So we'll go up to the Northeast. We'll come back to the Midwest and generally into the Tennessee Valley. Really good long-term customers that have been with us decades. Again, no touch freight, no endorsements required. You have a team there in Nashville that's extremely supportive, so it's a very collaborative environment. If you live in Nashville, you'll be doing orientation in Nashville, so you'll physically be there from day one with your fleet manager, which is a nice luxury for us to have. The other division, that position pays about $90,000 to $95,000 a year. The other division that I have openings for at this moment, because not all divisions are open because we're filled, is what we call Division 10. This division is somewhat unique. So if you come into the company and you're not quite sure what you want to do yet, but you really want to get a feel for what we do, is we have a Division 10. And Division 10 is essentially a floater division where you go to where the freight is hot. The nice thing about it is you don't have to worry as much as the seasonality in freight. You're going to go and we're going to get you loads to the freight areas that we have in divisions that are spiking up freight wise. So our Division 10, it might be that, hey, you know what, we have a ton of freight out of Houston. We're going to get you on a load going to Houston and you're going to run 440 freight this week. It may be that, you know what, we have some opportunities and we're going to have you run out of Jacksonville this week. So it's a bit of a unique thing. It, like Division 400, is about a 100-mile hiring radius around Nashville, but specifically it gives you an alternative. So if you're not sure what you want to do, or a division that you've seen for us in the past isn't open yet, it gives you the opportunity to get on with MVT. And when those positions open, you're the first in line for those positions before we open it up to the rest of the general public.
Love it. Love it. Okay. Love that. Okay, so what I want to do is go to commercial, but I'm going to talk about what we're going to do next because I want to do something a little bit different. Okay, so normally Pierson and I talk about tips and stuff like that, but because we do have a driver in the house, I kind of want to give him the opportunity to tell us about tips. But I wanted to kind of not like put you on the spot, even though that's kind of what I do, and give you the opportunity to kind of think about what you want to tell us. But so when we come back, I want Pierson to talk about how my husband, if he was a driver, could win me a car. After Pierson does that, then Anthony can tell us about tips, and then we go from there. Okay. So Kayla, take us to commercial. So about the car. So then Pierson can talk about how my husband can win me a car.
Mi nombre es Carlos Vázquez. Tengo trabajando 3 años aproximadamente y somos B1 y andamos en territorio Estados Unidos. Lo que me gusta de MVT es que tiene buenos viajes, buenos camiones y muy buenas millas. Mi comunicación con el despacho es muy buena y todo eso, y siempre están a la orden del día. ¿Qué pienso del equipo de los camiones? Pues que están muy bien y les dan sus mantenimientos, sus PO y todo lo demás, alineación y balanceo, todo, cambio de llantas y excelente servicio. La compañía cada trimestre regala un auto para los operadores. Me motiva pues a crecer más como persona y pues, para dar el 100, como dicen, para la compañía.
Welcome back, y'all. So Pierson, take it away. Tell us about a car.
I had a feeling this was going to come up. Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that makes MVT different is our fuel economy. In an industry that continues to average about 6 to 6.5 miles a gallon, now granted, we're going down the road with potentially 80,000 pounds, our fleet average is about 9 to 9.5 miles a gallon. There's a number of factors that lead into that as to why we're one of the most environmentally friendly fleets in the entire industry. A couple of those reasons are technology-wise and some other practices, but the number one reason by far is behavioral on the driver's part. Good pre-planning, not hard braking, understanding the value of keeping that truck moving rather than getting off every 30 minutes to go sightsee makes a significant difference in your fuel economy. To the point where at the end of every quarter, whoever gets the best fuel economy on the fleet, we're going to give a brand new car to. What we found the last 2 out of the 3 winners, were drivers that we'd hired in the last couple of years. So they were not people that had been with us for long periods of time. One was, but the other two weren't. Most of our divisions are more than capable of doing this. It seems to be a wide variety of divisions that win this. And so every month we give away a car to the person that has that lead in terms of fuel economy. The other thing to keep in mind is, just like any job, driving is no different. Driving, you improve over time and you get better at it and you know more about it. So when we get into the tips with D Anthony, you'll find what he knows today probably is significantly grown. So if you start out with bad MPGs when you get started with us, what we view as bad, which is generally around 7.5 miles a gallon, work with us. We'll work with you to get that miles per gallon up, make sure it's not the equipment that's a liability for you, and you can get there. So keep pushing forward on it. Additionally, above and beyond just giving away the car, whoever's the number one person in terms of MPGs for the year, we pay $25,000 to. Roberto Sandoval won it the last time. We'll award another one for 2024 coming up. So the MPG bonus is something that's uniquely different, but I can tell you it is something that we enjoy doing, and it's always great to meet somebody that's an expert at what they do on the road.
So tell me, Division 440, what is the likelihood of being able to win a car?
High. You have a couple things in your benefit. A, running along I-10 where you have a lot of flat land right there. Unlike the Western U.S. where you have the winds pushing you back towards the east, the nice thing with I-10 is flat land is a positive to you. Having flat surface to run on with less in the way of traffic can be a real benefit. Two, the length of haul helps on that. So it's a little bit of a longer length of haul where we have some divisions that are shorter, so you have less time stopping. So that also helps to you there on that end. So those two factors contribute to it, but at the end of the day, there is no bigger impact on fuel economy than what the expert behind the wheel does. That person ultimately, if you look at anybody that's won it for us in the past, when you meet with them and you talk to them and kind of dissect how they pre-plan, how they understand traffic patterns. Hey, I let my fleet manager know I can make this delivery, but I need to do it in this manner because of when traffic increases. If you live in Houston, as an example, I'll use that as a good one. Houston, if you get into that town at the wrong time of day, that traffic is not good for your fuel economy, and it's probably not good for your stress levels. But on the flip side, if you time that out and we try to work with our customers on delivery times, you can get good fuel economy out of Houston. But the number one factor out of Houston really revolves around timing more than anything else.
I agree with that. Sometimes Houston is not good. Traffic is not good for our mental health. That is for sure.
I've been in those parking lots. I mean, interstates.
That is for sure. So, okay, cool. So you heard it right there. You not thinking about that's the division that Josue and them put you on was 440 doing that I-10. So, okay. All right, perfect. So now I know that the thought is to be able to win a car, Pierson, but at the end of the year, what is the big prize that
it's that $25,000. The nice thing with a car, and the car is nice and all, but that $25,000, you get bragging rights. So there's about 1,900 drivers that you get to look at and say, I'm $25,000 richer. And B, cash is still king. I don't care if you want to get V mode or Ven mode or Apple Pay. I'll take $25,000 any way you want to give it to me.
Yeah. And did you hear him say Apple Pay, not Android? I just wanted to point that out just in case anybody did not hear that.
Wow.
But
Still team joy.
We were having that
stirring the pot
podcast. Okay. So we're gonna definitely go ahead to another commercial, and like Pierson said, we are gonna listen to an expert behind the wheel. He got 3.5 years in to this industry that we love. So I love so much. Let me personalize that because I keep coming back for punishment every year, every January. So and give us some tips, okay? So some of the things that Pierson and I have been talking about, we kind of want to hear from a driver perspective. So I'm going to ask some questions. I'm going to ask some hard questions on the spot and make you sweat a little bit. All right. So Kayla, take us to commercial, please. Okay, welcome back. Welcome back. You ready, D Anthony?
Yeah, I'm ready. Shoot it. Shoot it. What you got?
All right. Don't say shoot it. I'm from Chicago now. And you from the country, so shoot it for both of us might be different.
Yeah, it is. For real. It is for real.
Okay, so Pierson, I always talk about communication with the drivers, right? Pierson wants the drivers to definitely communicate because it's the way that the longevity at the company, at MVT, like it keeps the driver at the company, lets him know, and everybody there know what's going on, right? For us at rigonwheels, it lets us know where to place you because we actually have the ability to place you at many different companies, right? So it allows us to know what you want, what your family wants, what your needs are. So talk to us about a tip or tips as a driver when it comes to communication. What do you think?
Well, one tip I would say is really like I'm gonna piggyback on what you said about knowing what's best for you and your family as a driver, because you could be in an over the road drive and be gone too long, and that causes problems at home. It causes problems with your family. You're missing family events. I'm a family man. And it's best that you pick what's for you, whether you local, whether you regional, or whether you over the road. You have to go with what's best for you, and that way it's comfortable. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And me personally, I prefer local. I prefer regional. I don't really like being over the road, but I'll do it. Over the road is something that, like I say, you have to really be prepared for that. You got to know what you're getting yourself into to be gone so long like that.
And okay, so your rig on wheels recruiter was Nimmer.
Right.
Okay, so what I would tell her is right when and this is what I mean about communication. So when you just said local, regional, over the road, that sounds wonderful. What does local mean to you?
Local to me is at home every night.
What's regional to you?
I say regional with me would be gone, maybe like you might be out a week, maybe 7, 8 days.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
Over the road is you're gone multiple weeks at a time.
Okay.
Perhaps 2 to 3 weeks, maybe even up to 4 weeks at a time.
And the reason why I asked that question like that, and the reason why that's part of communication, and it's good for a recruiter to ask you, and you to respond back to that, is because what somebody considers regional, for a recruiter, that question was different, or the answer was different. Any other companies that's listening, and drivers. Some drivers consider regional home every other day.
Yeah.
Some drivers consider regional going to Dallas, San Antonio, and coming back to Houston, right? You consider it literally just being gone a week or so. Right?
Yeah,
okay.
It's a week or so. Yeah.
Right. So that's the reason why that's important. What you consider regional is what some drivers consider over the road.
Yeah.
So that's the reason why communication is so important. So we know, as Rig on Wheels, we literally know where to place you. That's the reason why Nimmer was able to say this worked. So when the first division closed, she was able to say this division worked because you communicated properly.
Yeah, she did it in detail too, and that really helped me out. Because she offered and told me, hey, this is what I have, this is A, and this is B, and this is C. So she had, the options for me to choose which one that I wanted. And the first one had closed, I want to say, I don't remember what number it was. So I had checked, the 29 had closed, and I told her about driving at night, was like, that's something I can do, but I don't choose to do that. So she was like, okay, well, you ain't gonna like this. So we pushed that to the side, and then she put me on this account right here.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so it's just the communication. I understand not the night driving because I can't see at night. Well, we talked about earlier, shoot, I ain't going to push my car to over 50 miles an hour either, so I ain't doing much of nothing. I am in the way.
All the way in the way.
I cause a lot of issues on the road. Okay, so another one that we talk about, and I know you and I didn't discuss this, but Pierson and I discuss it all the time. So this is putting you on the spot. Being a professional driver, what does that mean to you?
Safety.
Safety. I love that word.
Safety always number one with me because I'm precious cargo alone. You know what I mean? So, you know, I used to always think that the company wanted me to do a pre-trip, you know, and that's what they expected out of me. But until I had to realize from driving that that's a personal priority to take care of your pre-trip before you even do anything. That's safety. That's what's going to keep me alive is my pre-trip. Because I feel like I could, if I don't go into details, that could cost me my life. You understand what I'm saying? A steer tire blow while you going downhill or anything that could possibly go wrong with the truck or the trailer, you know, that was on me. I could have caught that before I even left, you know. So that's very important. Number two is, like I say, my family. You know, making it back home the same way I left. That's a very important issue to me. You know, I got a lot of people that love me, unfortunately. It's a lot that hate me too, but, you know, I think I got more that love me than hate me. And then, you know, number three, got to have my money right. Got to be about the paper. That's what we do it for anyway.
We ain't here to volunteer.
Yeah, we ain't here to volunteer, man. So that bread is very important as well.
Okay, so now I know that you were saying that pre-trip at first you felt you 3.5 years in, right?
Right.
So at first you felt like the pre-trip was, and I know your first company was Stevens. Yeah. So at first you thought it was Stevens that just wanted you to pre-trip.
Right. I just thought that.
You found out that it was you. You needed to pre-trip for safety to save your life. Yeah. When did you feel that you knew that?
Man, from seeing wrecks on the road.
But when?
A lot of wrecks, like in the beginning.
What is the beginning?
Like when I first had to go over the road.
When?
Like, what, 3 years ago? That's what you're saying? You asked me time-wise?
Give me a time. Was it a month in, 6 weeks in?
Man, Kameel, I'm going to say my first week, my first 3 days, it was real. Okay. It was real. Like, not only for me, though, too. I don't want to sound selfish, but people around me. Because I'm driving and seeing little children in the window, you don't know, want me to hit the horn, you know, bum, bum, bum. Man, that was kind of scary for me because, you know, first you need to be in a seatbelt, you know, but hey, what can I do to avoid this? So I would just kind of take my foot off the gas and let the car, you know, go ahead, you know what I mean? So that was something I took personally, and I still do it to this day, you know. Wow. All these children you see is not going to be in a seatbelt, you know, for whatever reason why, I don't know. But that was personal to me because I'm seeing other people's lives out here, you know. So my pre-trip can save everybody's life, and hey, that's a big deal to me. Always safety with me, whatever I do, safety. I put my seatbelt on when ain't nobody looking. You know, that's me.
Okay. Anything else that you can think of that makes you that? First of all, I don't want to make it seem like it's anything that needs to be added, but I want to give you the opportunity. Like, do you think anything else needs to be added when it comes to being a professional driver?
It's great communication. Great communication with the, you know, like with the, I'm trying to say.
Your dispatch.
My dispatch team, right. Manager. Yeah. It's very, very good communication. Like for a driver to wake up in the morning and know where you're going before you get there. Trip planning is very important. Like I say, good communication with the dispatch team because I want to know whoever's dispatching me. If it's a storm up ahead that I don't know, I love it when dispatch would call me and say, hey, you know, you might want to get down, or you got, you know, a hurricane coming, or you're driving towards you, a tornado or something like that, you know, to let me know. That's very important, very important. Okay. I don't want to feel like I'm just out here driving, you know. Like, I want to know that, you know, hey, man, these people I'm driving for care about me and they're concerned, you know.
That's good. Yeah. Okay. The way that you explain, because the way Pierson and I said, we say it, but coming from a driver's perspective, it just puts a little spin on it. But I'm not gonna say I'm an emotional person. What I will say is that when you were like saying about like you driving down a highway and you seeing the kids in the car and they don't have their seatbelt on and thinking about safety and stuff like that. I just thinking about us on 99 or 45 and how many chaps don't have their kids. That's what chaps are. Sorry, don't have their seatbelt on and stuff like that. And you thinking about these. I mean, the one thing in Houston that is done on a regular basis is flying off the highway. Yeah, like people like literally fly off the highway.
Yeah. That's true too.
That's literally so. Okay, now what money tips would you give a driver? Because like even though you're not doing over the road, right? You're doing regional. But what I always talk about, cooking in the truck and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But what are some of the tips that you would give a driver? Like from a driver to a driver.
Man, keep that left door closed. Keep that left door closed, man, and stay out them truck stops, man, them snacks, which, hey, it happened to me. I ain't gonna lie to you, but yeah, man, you know what I'm saying? You gotta stay out of it, man. Yo, eating as a truck driver is very important what you put in your mouth. I know it smells good. Man, coming from a driver, you've been rolling, you stop to get fuel or use the bathroom, and you see all that fried stuff up in the window. It smells good, it look good, it's tempting, but man, you got to cut it. You got to cut it, man, because you start out, you small, you're in shape or whatever, and then drinking Cokes and sodas and just, like as a driver from driving so long, we just like eat when it ain't nothing else to do.
Yeah.
I'm guilty of it.
That's
just
probably
driving,
what happened to me too. You know what I'm saying? I just ate when it wasn't nothing else to do.
Wasn't nothing else to do.
That's what it was.
Yeah, that's why I say revert back to, man, keep that left door closed, man. Keep that left door closed. Make sure you can, if it's possible, to plan your meals as well. If it's a refrigerator in the truck, to prepare your meals before you leave the house, and that helps.
Okay.
It saves you money, and also you know what you're getting. You know what I mean? Yeah.
We got something else in plan for you. I'm not gonna tell you right now. I'm gonna have my team do something for you because you just jogged my memory. I'm trying to go to heaven, y'all. Don't worry about it. I'm trying to go to heaven, but it just
pray for you,
you gave me an idea. You still in my deal right here, D Anthony. But no, you just gave me an idea. But okay, so those are your 3 tips right there. Yeah. Okay, cool. Something else you want to add, Pierson?
No, I think those are really good tips. I've been fortunate in my life. My grandfather, rest his soul, passed away in December, but he was a driver for 54 years. My uncles were drivers 20 plus years. In fact, one of my uncles started where D Anthony started over there at Stevens. A long time ago, but still at Stevens. The thing out there that I can't emphasize enough is that communication between the fleet manager and the driver, though. Not every fleet manager has driven a truck. We prefer to have fleet managers that have been behind the wheel because it helps that relationship gel a little bit more. But with that said, it's not necessarily the case. I can tell you don't want me driving a truck, so not everybody belongs in a truck. With that said, that communication between the fleet manager is really important and the driver. That's where the magic happens at any trucking company. It's where the revenue is generated, is between those two individuals right there. And you have to assume that person on the other end of the line doesn't know what it's like to be on the road. And the person there has to assume that the driver on the other side doesn't know all the 50 other drivers he's trying to help either.
Right.
If you can stay calm, it's trucking, bad things are going to happen. There's going to be a storm or a customer cancels a load or something funky is going to happen in trucking at some point. If those two people can stay calm, detailed, and talk to each other on a routine basis and really understand what both are trying to do, this becomes a lot easier. Because if you get two people where they meld like water and oil, it goes downhill real south and there's no saving it. That relationship is ultimately, at any trucking company, the most important relationship in the entire company. Because if it's good at that spot, now you can fix all those other problems.
Absolutely. And I wanted to point this out. D Anthony, I'm not sure if I said this. If I did, just pretend I didn't, everybody. But D Anthony is the one that won the $100 gift card. He listened very closely. He said, I thought he was saying before the podcast that he heard it in the replay, but actually he heard it the first time. Where Pierson said he was going to be, because he couldn't believe that Pierson was going to be in another country doing it. But no, Pierson is very well traveled on a regular basis. So that is what it is. But what we're going to do is go to commercial very quickly, come back, and what we're going to do is change it real quick. We are going to have it where the Anthony is going to put us in a hot seat and ask us some questions. So, like, because I know you want to know, like, some stuff that recruiters lie about.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's right.
And, you know, I'm a Virgo, so we don't lie. You may not like what I say most of the time. It's going to be all a lot of words, but it ain't a lie. So just take us to commercial, Kayla, for a few seconds, and then DeAnthony gonna put me in a hot seat.
Yeah.
Hey y'all, thanks for being back or coming back. Y'all know, the phrase. So maybe I'm a little nervous because DeAnthony fixing to put me on the hot seat. I might have to tap Pierson in if it gets too hot. But what you got for me? What's your question?
I'm going to speak for our truck drivers and say that all across America, that want to know what a lot of people, why do they always lie and say things to get your attention, to hire you, and then when you get there, it's like, boom, surprise.
Okay, so you talking about why recruiters lie or why companies lie?
Both. I want to know companies and recruiters. We all want to know.
Okay, so some recruiters lie because they trying to get a hire.
Yeah.
That's just period. They trying to get a hire, and that's one of the reasons why I say we not married to any company. We recruit for a lot of different companies, so we legit are not married. So that's our part of wanting you to have open communication with us, so we can figure out what company you want to go to.
Yeah.
Because right now, like Pierson says, we are in a relationship. Everything is about relationships.
Right.
So if you lie to us,
and
you carry yourself down to El Paso, and it come out to be everything you didn't say was a lie, and Pierson got to call me and say it's a lie, that's a bad relationship.
Yeah.
Now we got a problem.
Right.
So, because times have changed. So some of the things that recruiters may have been able to get away with in the past, that's not right now.
Right.
Okay? Right. So everybody should have always moved with integrity.
That's right.
But integrity in service and relationship building needs to go
hand in hand.
Right there.
Yeah.
But the truth of the matter is, people trying to make money.
Well,
that's a bad thing, but it's the truth. Pierson, what do you want to say?
Yeah, I'll point out this. I've had the pleasure of having about 500 recruiters over the years report to me at various companies and consulting. And one of the things I find that happens a lot is you have recruiters that don't know. A lot of people get their teeth cut in the industry by becoming a recruiter first. And the problem is as I've sat with recruiters, is I much rather hear as a driver that you say, I don't know, but let me find out for you, than have a recruiter go, I don't know what sounds good. Those are two very different mentalities right there. That recruiter that does the latter, that says, I don't know, but what sounds good, you don't want them as a recruiter very long, because they don't care about people. They don't have empathy, which is where you need somebody to be. The other part of that, though, that a company has to focus on is really training the recruiters, not just on how to sell somebody, but understanding the business that they're hiring for. So I don't care if you're hiring a truck driver, a diesel mechanic, an electrician. If I'm hiring for one of those positions, I should know what I'm talking about. I don't necessarily have to be an expert at it, But if I'm going to tell you, hey, this is what you need to do to be successful as a truck driver here, I should know something about the job to intelligently talk to you about it. So at our company here, we focus heavily on recruiter training. I have them sit with the IT team. I have them sit with the fleet managers, go out and spend time with the mechanics, and more importantly, sit through the orientation that the driver is going to go through. Ideally, sit with the drivers and talk to the drivers. What are their experience? What do they like about what we do? What do they not like about what we do? We've become a much better company, and unfortunately, not enough companies focus on having the recruiters go through that process. When you have a recruiter go through that process, yes, they do not give you the same results as quickly as you might like, but the results they give you and ultimately the people that stay much longer end up being much better off in the long run. So the question for many companies is, do I want recruiters hiring drivers in 2 weeks? Or am I willing to give 90 days so that recruiter can become intelligent and bring in a candidate that's more likely to stay with us? Some companies don't, other companies do. I would argue that it's worth 90 days of training somebody up and giving them the tools to be successful. And the other part of this is, I'll give you an example, a little bit of a difference. So our recruiters do get commissions. They don't get commissions because you got hired. You got hired. That's cool. I'm glad to have you in the orientation, but we got to make money together here. This is for profit for you and for us. That recruiter doesn't get their commissions until you've actually stayed with the company and are now behind the wheel and being successful. That sounds like a real little thing, but if you're a driver, you want your recruiter making a living. Nothing wrong with that, but you don't want your recruiter making a living because you happen to show up to orientation. That recruiter's incentivized financially to get you into class, not to have you be successful in that scenario.
Yep, that's the reason why communication and education is important.
Right.
Yeah, so it's not just getting you to class.
Right. Well, what coming from a driver, what's scary is, like I say, me going to El Paso. When I get to El Paso, I'm finding out, ain't nobody tell me about this. Mm-hmm. I get my first check and look at it like, oh man, I thought you said you got to get on the phone. Like, hey man, you told me, said, that's what I'm speaking of.
Yep. I think the biggest thing here is the number one thing when I hire a recruiter and I talk to anybody about hiring a recruiter, and I'd say this about a lot of other positions, is the recruiter's number one skill set has to be empathy.
Yeah.
Pretend that you were recruiting your mother into the job.
Right.
If you were recruiting your mother into the job, how would you want her experience to be?
Right.
Now, I'm a little biased. Like I said, most of my family's been in trucking most of my life, so I wear that proudly, and it does make me a little biased. But I will tell you that any recruiter I have, be it sitting here 5,700 miles away in Lithuania or sitting in the office in El Paso, is you've got to have empathy to be successful as a recruiter. And you will find that the recruiters that lack empathy, they don't last real long in this business. They eventually burn out, and about a year into it, they're back, flipping burgers or doing whatever they're doing. The recruiters that end up making a career out of it, and the number one reason is because they have empathy.
Yeah.
What's your next question? Because that is 100%.
Oh, I can't think of nothing else at the time.
So you just think we liars?
No,
you gotta give me something else. Come on.
Well, I'll give D Anthony this, and I didn't realize it was an insult at the time. My grandfather taught me to drive when I was about 16 years old, and we were in a little Geo Metro. Which, if you've never been in a Geo Metro, my advice to you would be don't get in a Geo Metro. But as we're driving and I'm grinding the gears, my grandfather looked at me and says, "You're going to grow up to be a damned recruiter." I didn't realize that at the time, but that was actually an insult. But who knew? He called it, and it ended up working out.
Listen here, recruiter is one of the best jobs. I'm just saying, I'm very biased. But anything else? Because you were saying some of the things that you feel like recruiters lie about. Because I know I'm going to do a YouTube about some like the top 5 things I think recruiters do lie about.
But that's something that come to my mind for right now, and it's crazy. I think about something later, I'll just call up here and tell you.
That's something. Well, if anybody else is looking to definitely get on with MVT, they love our podcast, love seeing Pierson's smiling face. and want to join the team, definitely give us a call at 281-968-3100, 281-968-3100, or go to rigonwheels.com and fill out an application at the website. Thanks everybody for tuning in or looking at the replay, and we'll see you back next week on Tuesday at 3 p.m. Central Standard Time. Bye-bye.
Later.